Hey Aquarius, welcome to the space. Welcome to now. All right, Aquarius Ascendant. We're going to be taking this in a few different ways. One, I'm sure there'll be some traditional situations, some fundamental understandings. But the true foundation of what we're working with here is, our own creative expression, right? That's very important. Coming up with your own answers for things, right? Or taking other people's answers and then trying to find your own within it, right? And because of this perspective, we're going to be looking at it where Taurus would be ruling the first house. Okay, you're still Aquarius Ascendant. I hope this is making sense. Traditional astrology has Aries ruling the first, from Vedic to even Babylonian, whatever. I guess it's just the way that it is, but I'm taking it the way that I came to know. That makes sense in my heart. You know what I mean? So, Aquarius Ascendant. I don't know if I mentioned, but I'm going to be using my own creative connectivity or whatever it is. Because we can find different answers that way. So let's see here. Well, you're ruled by Saturn, right? Your first house is ruled by Saturn. So you could love very deeply, but I think it takes you a while to love yourself. Not that you don't know that you're smart, but really to stabilize who it is that you are. Most of you probably also have like kind of a sturdy body. Like you're beautiful, but you could be you're not, I would say most of you aren't super lean, right? There's something, I mean, it depends with the planets, but there's something about that, right? You get, you may have kind of bigger ankles, or, there's a lot of muscle there. So there's mass, right? And I see this as physically. I also see this as very much like where you really connect to nature. You know what I mean? Like you probably feel most at peace when you're walking through the woods, right? It brings you some sort of solace. Actually, walking would be very, very good for you to keep your circulation in the right position. Okay? I tattooed my arm the other day. Sorry for being strange with my movements, but it's in the ditch of my elbow, so I haven't been able to bend my arm because it would I can, but it's like you're supposed to keep it mildly not moving for a couple days, and it's uncomfortable when you don't move something so maybe some of you are a little bit stiff and you need to move where all the parts, right? Because Saturn rules that too. All the things that bend, the knees, the elbows, the ankles, some of you could also be worried about love too, huh? You kind of worry about love a little bit. Let me see here. Oh, because your feelings are so deep, like you love so deeply, but it's a lot of, you can express it through writing, but it's perhaps a little bit difficult to communicate out loud. That's cute. I guess if that's the case, then you need to be with someone like whatever this expression is, where it's like, oh, that's cute. Like they still know what you mean because you have Pisces ruling your second house, right? It's not that you're not a good communicator, but that the wealth of you, right? Like the treasure chest of you at the bottom of the sea, right? Is I guess that's a part of your love and where your love and your mind lives. Interesting, Aquarius Ascendant. Okay. Some of you are probably insecure about your feet. Or maybe you don't have like I don't know, there's something with your feet that you have to have a conversation with your feet to be able to figure out your self-value. Perhaps even the health of your feet could express how much you're caring for yourself, right? Like self-care, things of that nature. You know, maybe you'd be like, I don't care about my body sometimes, and then other times you're really concerned about it. Does that make sense? And I see that your feet give you an indication to the health of your mind. Okay. I see that your mother was like the father, and the father was like the mother for most of you. There's some sort of the gender roles. There could have been role reversal for some of you. I guess it depends on probably the degree of your ascendant. Because you could have Aquarius ruling the majority. You could be Capricorn rising, but have the majority of your first house in Aquarius. This would be relevant also, you know. It's just like a different degree of it. I do see your mother is... your mother probably had there's multiple children. You have siblings, right? You love your siblings very much too. You almost feel like the mother or like the parent to your siblings in a kind of way. Like you feel like you need to take care of them. Like as an extra way to balance them out. Because your parents couldn't do it alone. You have eyes just... Some of you could very well, like you and your siblings have the same eyes, or your sibling has the same eyes as your mother too. Interesting. I see that most of you, your mother's got a temper. Your siblings also have a temper. Like they're real hot-headed sometimes, you know what I mean? You could definitely get into big conversations where you're like button heads with your siblings, you know? It's like, not that you don't love each other, because even in the midst of like, you know, you love them so very much. It's all out of love, you know? It's all out of love. So let's move along here. You love home. Home is so very important to you. Home really is where the heart is. Home is where you feel free. You probably prefer to have sex at home too, versus like a person that would have it like out in public. Like you'd want it to be in a really comfortable space. You know what I mean? Like, where it's like soft and it's like comfortable and things that makes a difference to you, that tactile kind of space versus like in the woods, you know, with sticks and all this kind of stuff. It would, not that you wouldn't do that, but just like that's, if you could choose, you would rather, I guess it's easier for you to express your love and to be at home, like in a place that you feel like is at home. And so I guess it's very important for you to know that home is wherever you are, right? And you can make it soft and comfortable wherever you are. You could be in the midst of a field of cacti. You still could find that place that's comfortable enough for you to sit and be soft in that, okay? And also express when you do feel uncomfortable. Right? You probably second guess yourself a lot. And you're probably also very reflective. You could be very reflective. Just a minute. Oh, you're actually open to receiving advice from other people before, like, if you're in a situation where you need to risk something, or like it's a big decision, you would want to, you would be open to talking to other people and being like, hey, like, I'm thinking about doing this. Like, what do you think about that? Or I've been thinking about this. You know, it could be issues with your children. Like, you're open, you would be open to that. You know, some parents aren't so, or like people are not open to, you know, other people's opinions, but this is where you would actually inquire to others. That's very smart. But it could, you want to make sure that you're kind of like, what is your position first before you go ask other people, and then like fold those into one another, but don't ever remember that you don't ever lose yours, because this is where you could kind of second guess yourself, and then it would be harder for you to maybe make a decision because you really want to make the most pure decision, right? Aquarius is the first house. You're ruling the whole, you're ruling the world in a way, right? The stars, the heavens, all these things, the weather, it's like, it's a lot of things that you're in control of. And so, well, you have such a big heart, you know. Some people may not be able to sense that unless they really know you, like they can like tap in a little bit further than some of the bricks that you've put up, right? The walls, but it's just because Saturn rules your first house, it's going to be the way that it is. But, and a little side note, the only time they say that Saturn is not malefic in a chart is when it is the ruler of your first house. That means usually you have a little bit easier of a time with Saturn there. Now, if it's literally there, that makes it, this is an expansion of that. It being the undercurrent, the ruler of the first house, it still gives positive results, right? You could still be successful. You could still be all the things that Saturn represents, you could attain pretty easily without too much conflict. Now, depending where it is in your chart will show where you have an extra lesson, if that makes sense. Because every house represents some aspect of our life, right? Let's see here. You kind of fall hard. You could be a romantic once you're in it. You could be very romantic, very dedicated, very, very loving. And actually, like, I think there's a different kind of sex that happens when you're really in love with someone. There's a different kind of, like, it's not just sex. It's like all these different energetic points, but there's a big one between your heart and between your root chakra. Because, and that makes sense because Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, which is the root chakra, being your first house ascendant, right? But the undercurrent of this would be Taurus, which is Venus, and this is the heart. So you're trying to combine it. Oh, shucks. Can you hang on a second? I forgot to turn that off. One second, Aquarius. I'll turn that off in a second. I forgot the house phone was on. Okay. So maybe for some of you, you could have sex very easily. Although really, you'd have to be connected to someone in your mind. Like you'd have to, what's it called? Saposexual, right? You're attracted, you're turned on by people's mental space, like by learning from them, and this goes back to being open-minded right here. I'd also say you'd really It's probably easy for you to talk to kids. Kids want to talk, children want to talk to you, right? You may even have a little bit easier of a time talking to children or people younger than you than people your own age. Not that you couldn't, but just there's something that's a little bit softer about that. Let me see here. I see that if any of you have any digestive, I feel like digestives, is that what they call it? Digestive, would be good for you, especially with all the thinking that you do, right? Because again, your air initially, your fifth house is all air. So crab apples, blackberries, any kind of digestive, this could even be a little bit of coffee after you have dinner, like a hot black coffee, no cream, no sugar, just black coffee and a little bit, you know what I mean? Like the way that everyone in the world, except for the United States, drinks coffee, you know, it's like just a little, you only need a little bit, it's super strong, right? But this will help something move through. Because I sense for some of you, because this goes along with healing, and it goes along with your bigger lessons that you're learning in this life, okay? And you want to learn them. I see that, and I like that very much. You want to learn them. You're like, okay, I'm open to it, but it's almost like you either ingest so much that it takes longer to digest it. That I sense this as metaphorical and physical, literal. But you ingest a lot, and then your intestines, it's like it takes, you don't realize that it may take longer to digest than it is to ingest it, right? And so if you're actually physically, like if you become constipated or like you're kind of bloated in your area of your intestines, right? Or if your belly's aching, or you just, because everything takes a different amount of time to digest, right? They say, I guess, that meat can take up to like 2 weeks to get through, push through your system, you know? I don't know if that's actually the case, but the point is that if that is the case, then it means that you have to slow down with what you're trying to process, okay? Maybe some of you need to eat more intentionally. Yes, some of you could be very fast eaters. And you could potentially eat emotionally too, it depends. Let's see here. Most of you are aware and conscious that there is a creator. And you love that. Whatever one you connect to, however you define that in yourself, it's good. It may be hard, again, for you to really express what it is, like out loud. Or maybe this is something that you sort of find private. This could also be the love that you have in yourself. Like there's something about reserving it, or not that you don't want to share it exactly, but it's something where you're like, well, I can't give this to you. You have to find it in yourself, right? Because that's where you found it. I mean, it was a portal that opened and connected you to something quite greater than you, right? But it was still something, a key that you found that unlocked a door inside of you, right? So maybe that's how you kind of feel about love too, or that's the kind of person that it would be beneficial for you to be with. I also see that you would probably have to be with someone who does process, like, you would have a low tolerance for people who do not process what it is that's going on with them if you're going to be like deeply, heavily, intimately involved with them, right? Because if not, what will happen is you may try to fix other people in their problems instead of them, again, realizing that they already have the key for themselves. You probably had to go through that when you're younger, right? And now you probably know better. Although there could still be tests with that, but that's okay. It's just practiced, right? I see most of you could make if you wanted to, you could have a really good job. Like a job that pays you, an ample salary. It would be because you're smart. It would be because you're dedicated. It would be because you know things that like you can... you pay attention to the little tiny, it's something where you have to pay attention to little tiny details. There's technicality in it. You know what I mean? That's your MC. It's like, there's technicality. Although the field that you may be in is not as close to God as you want it to be. Although whatever it is that you end up creating in this life through your occupation has to do with how it's like, to you, it's not exactly the as close to God as you want it to be, but the way that other people perceive it and whoever you're working with thinks that's their way to God, right? It's like this way to purity, but that's a little conflictual. So I guess you have to know it within yourself and then make integral decisions to what you want to work with, because you have that choice. And you probably have a lot of tests in the physical world with other people, and it's probably especially in your job, where you have to possibly choose between like a predetermined system and what's true and pure to you. It's kind of a tough one. But I need you to remember that whatever it is that you end up it goes back to your fourth house and what, like your comfortability level. Like, what is that? You got to know that for yourself, like inside of yourself. So when you go out in the world, in your job, with other people, whatever, you can clearly express it with assertiveness and intelligence that is pure to your intention. Because if that's the case and you're coming from that space, then how could anyone deny you? And if they did, then you would know that that is not a place for you, period. Now, I'm not saying because Saturn rules your first house, you're going to have to do things and be in systems and old, like certain kinds of structures that you'd want to break out of, right? Or you want to change it in some kind of way. But the system has already been there for so long that you're like, how do I move this? It's like, I can't cut, because you're trying to do it all by yourself instead of actually asking other people, because I'm sure that there are other people that are thinking the same way as you, but you have to find them, okay? Or you have to be patient enough to, patient, and I see brave enough to be able to actually say no to certain things. The more you say no in your physical life, again, in the external world with your job, things like this, like someone offers you a job, it's a bunch of money, but it's like, for a fucking company that you know is just like some corporate fucking evil thing, like, and that is against you for some reason, that old system of like capitalism or whatever, you saying no, what actually happens is, I guess you'll start saying more and more once you realize that your support system is there. So you can say, no, I'm not going to pay taxes, you know, town of whatever, because, and everyone in your community is like, right, in your neighborhood is like, right, we don't have to pay, I already own this. Like, you can't even buy land anyway. Does this make sense? I see most of you having a lot of friends if you want to. I see that your friends probably have to be spiritual. I see that your friends also have to constantly be learning. Your friends, your lovers, your children, you want that. You want them to, things to always be expanding and learning and changing, but in a positive way, right? Not dramatic kinds of things. It's like logical change, because logically everything is changing. The only thing that is unchanging is change, right? So that's pretty cool. I see doing, this is interesting. I see doing, you'll know who your friends are by the activities that you do have something to do with your thighs. Like, it would be like you go walking together, or you go biking, or you go swimming, or you like, you know, you're bending. It's like kayaking or rock climbing, or it could even be where you're driving things, because I keep seeing someone like shifting, right? There's something, I actually saw a cool go-kart. So maybe a little bit of speed some of the time for some of you. Some of you could like driving fast too. But oh, I see your friends also give you a lot of faith. Your friends give you a lot of faith. And let's look at the 12th house. Let's see. Capricorn ruling the 12th. Unless your moon is there, or in the 6th, unless your moon is there, I don't know. I'd say you probably, your dreams are a little bit harder to understand. It could just be like little pieces of things, right? But you can loosen the dream world if you want to. The more that you, like, the more comfortable your sleep space is inside of your body, right? The more you become accepting to life too, the more you can see in that dream world. Although that may not be the point. And for some of you, it depends. For some of you, you could also, when you do dream, you're also, even, I guess even if you don't remember, maybe that's why some of you don't remember, is because it would be too hard to remember, because they can, dreams can physically, I know from my experience, can physically affect you the next day, you know? But some of you could have a lot of battles in your dreams. Like it's always like where you're fighting someone, you know what I mean? Or you're like, you go to punch someone and it's real slow. Like you just can't do the thing that you want to do in the dream. So, maybe just reminding yourself that you're going into dream world and that is not this world, and you're just going to experience it for whatever it is. And if things come to you, if you're supposed to remember it, well, ask to remember it so you can learn from it. Because if you're scared of it, it will remind you, but you'll take it in the wrong way, or whatever. That could also be something that you talk to other people about, like your dream interpretation. Be like, what do you think about this? Right? Maybe it'll give you some sort of insight or something. Fascinating. Well, I think that was a good reading, Aquarius. Rising, Ascendant. Fascinating. Well, thanks for being here. Thank you for participating in this space. Love ya. Peace.